Everyone, welcome to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick, Austin. And tonight, Austin and I are going to watch and review a movie that came out the year I was born, Austin, 1984.
Yeah, a movie you have a deep connection with because it came out at the same time as you.
That's right. Yep. And that's about the extent of my deep connection with this movie. That and I watched it in high school and was appalled and had nightmares and never wanted to have to watch it again. But here we are. Now I'm having to watch it again.
Exactly. We're just at the beginning of this franchise. We got 3 more to go.
Austin, I know that's not actually a turtleneck, but it looks almost like a turtleneck.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been doing like my turtleneck thing. I'm not wearing one right now, but I've been going through this turtleneck phase of the channel lately, and now it looks like you copied me.
But I think it's just because it's a hoodie, but it's like cut kind of like small, like it's not like a wide cut.
I gotta try to fix your window again. Are you just sitting really tall?
Oh, I can like.
Yeah, I think you are. Is there a way you can change your camera just
that better?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks for people not watching and just listening. None of this will matter to you, but just picture.
They've already clicked away. They're like, "Oh, what the hell is this?"
Yeah, just picture Austin doing like the Michael Keaton thing, but if he turns a certain way, it'll completely break the illusion. Yeah, see, now it's gone. But he didn't move like Batman, so it savors the illusion to a degree.
The other day I saw a video in my feed that was like, I think it was like 2 minutes long, and it was every time Batman tries to turn in 89.
Oh, that's great.
I was like, oh, that's great. So we made a compilation.
Just a compilation of that?
Yeah, and the thumbnail was just a collage of all of the like poses like that.
That could be a gimmick for one of my 89 commentaries where I count the number of times he turns like that. Because I am going to do one where I count Vicky Vale screams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
I'm looking forward to that commentary. That might be the one I do this week, Austin. I haven't decided yet. I'm between 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
Anyway, that's on Sunday. Quick plug for that, folks that are watching this in real time. But anyway, welcome everybody. Let's get into Tromaville, I guess, and talk about a thing that I have avoided forever. Austin, kind of a missed opportunity, though, because like Ninja Turtles... Although that's for comics, of course, but this was 40 years old last year, so we probably should have done this for the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, there's been like a ton of stuff recently that's missed the anniversary date.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard to keep up with all of it, and this wasn't really on my radar for, I think, kind of understandable reasons.
Well, I'm not even just thinking about us. You have like, Godzilla -1 was like a month before the anniversary year. No Time to Die has that as well. Sure. I think No Way Home has that. Like, there's been a couple of things where it's like, you're like a few months off. Like,
oh, you're talking about like actual releases of things.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Star Trek Discovery had that, where it was like, I hate that show, but that comes out in 2017, and the 50th was 16. It's like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. But at least they got Beyond out that year.
Yeah, there you go.
And that actually felt like an anniversary movie, so at least they nailed that. But what's weird is, when we're talking about actual releases, the Toxic Avenger remake was supposed to come out well before the anniversary and is now finally going to drop a year after the anniversary, but they were all over the place with that. I don't know why Kaufman wouldn't just, like, hold that in his back pocket until the 40th.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that movie had, like, such issues getting a distributor. Like, maybe they were hoping for that to happen, because I think it...
Is it possible they even were originally attempting to get it out for the 35th? Like, is that what was going on?
Possibly, I don't know. I think it was 2023, I think, was when they played it at whatever film festival.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like that's a year before the anniversary.
Yeah.
Oh, but good call. Maybe they were hoping for a wide for the year after. I thought
it like they were shopping it around and they're like, oh, we'll get it for next year, and then it just didn't happen because people were calling it unreleasable, and I have a hard time believing that, but we'll see.
Yeah, like, I'll be shocked if it's that much more gratuitous than the original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be shocked too. Like, if it's... Yeah, like, I feel like there's things like Terrifier and stuff that are a lot more shocking. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, and this was also considered unreleasable. And here we are, like a whole franchise and a kid's cartoon later.
Exactly, and there's that game coming out soon. Yeah. I don't know when it's coming out. But...
It's supposed to be this year, I think.
Okay.
Which is supposed to be a 4-player arcade-style 90s-esque beat-em-up for the Toxic Crusaders, which is that cartoon show in the style of... And it's made by the company that did, like, the EVGN games. And it's... so is that... Screw Attack or
a Screenwave?
Screenwave. Well, no, I don't think Screenwave is actually the developer of the games, but the
I was sure if they're like a publisher or something. I don't know.
Maybe they are. I'm not even sure. But anyway, it's the Freak Zone games. Isn't that what it is? Anyway,
I'm not sure.
It's those guys doing a like Shredder's Revenge kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually excited about
excited to try that. Yeah.
I'll play that. So this is a big year for Toxic Avenger. You know what? Maybe it's actually better that we are doing this year because all these things are releasing.
Yeah, exactly.
And we will do a how we felt about on the new one this year. Peter Dinklage, of all people.
Yeah. Peter Dinklage, Kevin Bacon, Elijah Wood. It's like a stacked cast.
You know my favorite thing? We'll get into the movie here in a minute, everybody. You know my favorite thing about that poster? This is a short movie, by the way, so it might be smart to get a little bit of this stuff out in preamble so we're not talking about too much current events while we're trying to put ourselves back in the day in 1984. But anyway, my favorite thing about that poster is the very last name is Kevin Bacon, and it says, and Kevin Bacon, and Kevin Bacon.
And Kevin Bacon.
That makes me very happy.
Beautiful.
I got the Blu-ray box set for this, which is actually not the most recent collection for this now. There was a 4K collection that came out last year for the anniversary that I can't imagine the transfers look that much nicer in 4K, considering the kind of B-movie schlock we're looking at here, and all of the kind of nostalgic like pops and things that happen in the film with movies like this. But that thing I think has some new features, and maybe the commentaries are new. I'm not sure, but I couldn't bring myself to spend $89 on that, Austin. And that's on sale. I think it retailed originally for like $130 or something.
Yeah, I think it was like $150 here when I checked, but I can't remember. It's been a while.
It's on sale right now on Amazon for $89. And as much as I love beefing up my superhero movie collection, I just could not bring myself to do that. But I do have these on Blu-ray and not DVD, so that's cool, I guess. I want to read the back of this box.
Yeah, you should.
I sent this to Austin. Great. It's wonderful. And this, by the way, is also the blurb on Amazon. So if you go to buy this is how they sell it to you. This Tox set, which you hold in your hands, will prove to be an increasingly valuable collectible. Because Lloyd Kaufman, Toxie's creator, is over 70 years old, he could die at any time. This will make this limited edition soar in value. And I can only assume that he wrote them.
Oh, I would have to imagine so.
Or that his team is just so in tune to his sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. No, I would be shocked if he didn't write that, or at least just say, like, hey, you should have some sort of joke like that.
Yeah, exactly. Polnasek5 499 super chat. Let me read this real quick. He says, "Ooh, love this movie. Tasteless but hilarious." I mean, if you like this movie, that's the only review, right? Like,
yeah, pretty much
intentionally shocking and totally without any class, and that's supposed to be the point. And if you find that funny, then it's hilarious. I can't wait for the remake that's finally being released this year. I'm so curious to see what that's going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like the people that saw it at that festival were like raving about it, which made it weirder that it wasn't able to find any sort of distribution.
Yeah, I thought. Nobody?
Yeah, it was like not even like Shudder or something, like a streaming.
I was going to say, what would you think would be the streaming service that would take it? Or do you think Troma just really insisted on getting it in movie theaters?
It could be that. Maybe Ketchup was like, hey, we'll do it, but it's going to get the Hellboy release.
I mean, considering that the original Toxic Avenger was only in initially one movie theater, but they held it for a whole year, I would be really surprised if Lloyd Kaufman was like, fine, if somebody will take this, I'll put it somewhere.
I want that to be, though, like in the contract where it has to be in at least one theater for an entire year.
There's so many things I want to say right now, but I'm just going to wait until we get into the actual commentary. Austin, while I'm getting my clock up, would you talk just a little bit about your brief history with this franchise? Because I know this has turned into a thing that you like a lot, but you only really got into it recently, and all four of these have made it into your top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time list, which, by the way, we're planning on doing some more of right after this for anybody that wants to stick around. But Austin, talk a little bit about your history with this.
Yeah, so I first watched this for like preparing for that list. And somebody also asked me earlier like how familiar I am with Troma. I'd say like I've more so dipped my toe into it more than anything. Like I'm just kind of getting into stuff. Like I've seen a few things outside of this, but I'm just kind of starting. But yeah, I went into this thinking like, okay, like this is a movie that's going to be like really like in your face, like shocking and distasteful. And then when I watched it, I didn't really have that. Like there's obviously, you know, off-color jokes, but for the most part, I was like, oh, it's so farcical. Like none of that reads to me like that, where I'm like, it doesn't even feel like it's even trying to be shocking to me. Like I don't even have that at all, really. Like there's a thing.
Your perspective is so different from mine because I think because of the catalog of things that you tend to watch.
So there's a part, because I watched the Cap and I both listened to the Kaufman commentary, and he talked about how the only hate mail they got for this is that they killed a dog. And I was like, okay, when I rewatch it today, I'm gonna like really focus in on that and be like, okay, like, you know, this is like a messed up thing that's like, oh, I'm gonna be mad about it. And then I watched it again, and I'm like, oh, but it's so cartoony. Like, the dog's like sitting there with fake blood on it, and it's like clearly breathing. Like, how is anyone shocked by this? I don't know. That's just me, I guess.
I mean, some of it is time and place. Like Troma was
for that,
pretty early to the party with this kind of stuff, and I do think in his commentary when he talks about that, Kaufman is right about that.
No, sure. Like time and place, obviously, I can understand a little bit more. But I mean, because like I said, like I went in knowing just that, so I was like, I'm kind of surprised it still has that. But yeah.
Well, and I mean, he was talking about letters he was getting at the time, so I don't know.
No, that one specifically.
I'm not real sure what the like broad consensus is of this now versus then. Like, I don't even know how much this is revisited, really.
I think this is like a really big cult classic at this point. Like, this is a movie I'd heard about for years before I had actually seen it.
That's what it seemed like when I was in high school, and I just wasn't sure how much the like general feelings of it had changed with like how much the culture has shifted on a lot of things, right? Like, is this one of those things that people start to turn against real hard because of like nudity and the way women are treated, and you know that kind of stuff? Like, have we gotten PC enough that like you know, even people that used to like this kind of intentional quote-unquote trash?
Yeah, it's hard to say with that. Like, I guess because you either are tuned into this and you like that kind of stuff, or you just don't. So I feel like if you're that type of person that will be mad about it, you're probably just not going to look at it anyways. Like I feel like it kind of passes by off that. Also, I just remembered while you were saying that the first experience I ever had with Troma was in high school. My dad got me the Troma How to Make Films DVD, which I don't think he knew what Troma was. I think he was just like, oh, this is like a thing about how to make movies. I'll get this for Austin. And I put in disc 1, and it's like, okay, first thing, casting. Uh, let's find our actress, and they have like a line of women. They're like, okay, ladies, tops off. It's like,
wow. Oh. Yeah, you have to know what Troma is.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, whoa, I don't know what this is, but this is wild.
That it sounds like he's almost intentionally doing a spoof, not having seen that, of like Stan Lee's How to Draw Comics.
Oh yeah, it would be interesting for you to look at that at some point because I guarantee there's probably a little bit of that in there.
Considering he knew Stan Lee and worked with him, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, no, and it's definitely like them putting on like a bit of a production.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. That sounds funny. That sounds funnier than this to me.
Yeah, fair enough.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get into Toxic Avenger. I will throw in the quick disclaimer that this is the kind of thing that is tough for me to do a commentary on the channel because we're still relatively family friendly, and a lot of the things that you have to talk about with this are just intentionally raunchy and gross and stuff. So obviously we'll keep our language as PG-13 as possible, but for the sake of quoting and just a certain subject matter we'll have to talk about, I mean, you shouldn't be watching this unless you're an adult and you can look at hard R or past R things anyway. But I want to put that disclaimer in. And also the disclaimer, if you're going to watch this with us and you've never seen it and you're watching it for the first time, you may not be like Austin and you might be shocked by some things. I do feel the need to throw that out there. Because this is very different from almost anything I've ever done a review on, is at least within the Superhero Rewind realm. There are things like, El Super Beasto that get a little closer to this kind of thing, but I haven't done a lot of that. A lot of just real super raunchy, ultra.
I mean, this is the
tasteless.
Most like B movie like we've ever done, right?
Yeah, for the commentary project and for Superhero Rewind at large. Years ago, I did a scripted review of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, which is definitely still in this realm and is even a lower budget and less professional piece than this is. That makes this look like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Fascinating. I've never seen that. I only just watched Killer Clowns like back in the summer, I think.
Yeah, it's shocking that movie it has the cult classic status that it does and was as popular as it was, because I found it nigh unwatchable.
Okay.
Like, or at least that's what I'm remembering about it. Like, there's some fun things in it, but it's one of those B movies where there's just kind of long stretches of nothing, and it's not very artistically shot, and like they're trying with this. Like, there's a lot of love put into this. I don't understand why, but there is. Are you ready?
Aye, Captain.
All right, here we go. Everybody get excited to listen to Austin talk about Toxic Avenger. Here we go. Let me fix my audio real quick. And away we go. I'm being facetious. I have some things to say. Here we go. Everybody, please press play. By the way, sorry, let me say real quick, too. I'm watching this on Amazon. I do have the Blu-ray. It's just kind of more convenient the way I'm set up right now. And it's ironic because even though this could not get a theatrical release hardly at all when it first came out, it's available for free on lots and lots of different streaming services right now.
That's what I mean. Like, how did nobody pick it up?
This is a very easy thing to watch right now. So you can watch this on Prime, but there are also lots of free places. I think Freevee maybe has it and a few other places. So you seek it out.
Tubi has it.
Easy to Tubi. Yeah, easy to watch.
I'm watching it on Shudder.
Yeah, they should have put the new one on Shudder. We'd all be watching it already.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody, please press play right now.
Warning, do not watch this.
Their studio logo at the beginning is hilarious.
It's like the Superman thing.
Well, it's so cheap looking.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's gonna be easy to say that about everything with this, but a lot of this is kind of intentionally cheap. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of a mix of, we don't have a big budget, so it's gonna look cheap, and also we're intentionally making a bad movie.
Yeah. No, I think it's got like that energy where there's a few things they're able to do that are impressive with how little money they have, but they're also self-aware that they have very little money.
There's a lot of really inventive practical effects and stuff that, honestly, I wasn't impressed with until I heard how it was done. I think this is a lot more interesting movie when you learn about how it's made.
Mm-hmm. No, even because I like this movie a lot, and even I thought that there's things that I found more interesting after listening to his commentary on it.
Austin, did you know that right outside of New York City, there's this little suburb called Tromaville?
Yeah, well, he's the Toxic Avenger, the first superhero from New Jersey.
How often do we do that, where we have a made-up place that we put right next to a real place?
Well, it's like they crossed Marvel and DC, where it's like Marvel is in New York, so we're in New Jersey, but it's a made-up DC city.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of the thing, and we'll point out tons of stuff, a lot of the superhero like comic stuff that you can draw direct parallels to in this movie, I don't think are intentional. I think about half of it is. Mm-hmm. Especially because some of the most interesting ones I found, Austin, are like retroactive.
Yeah, I've always kind of wondered that, where it's like, I feel like some of this is probably unintentional, and I think a lot of it too, Cap, is that you have early Marvel that's really looking at like old monster stuff, and that's also what this is looking at. So I think some of it is coming to that from the same inspirations.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think this is a... Tell me if you agree with this. I think this is a horror parody and a satire about like popular things going on right at that time, you know, in the mid-'80s, before it's a superhero parody. Like, I think the superhero of it all is secondary to everything else.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I said to you earlier today, listening to Cobman talk about it, I feel like this kind of accidentally became a superhero movie while they were making it.
Yeah, especially because they didn't even have the title until they were in post-production. Mm-hmm. Which you were really surprised by.
I was, yeah, because I assumed that Troma was one of those studios that goes, okay, here's a cool title we can sell. Let's make that... kind of that Ed Wood thing where there's the producer in that movie that's like, Ed Wood asks him if he has a script. He's like, no, but I got a title, and it releases in 12 weeks.
And see, that seems like the opposite to me of what actually happens with a lot of Troma movies. Because and I've not watched any of their other films, and I have no interest whatsoever in doing that. And if you go look at the other titles of a lot of their movies, they seem intentionally vague and not very descriptive. And I mean, some of them I guess are descriptive enough, but like they sound like the kinds of things that are trying to look like a really cheap B movie. This is such a distracting movie to try to talk over.
It's so goofy. How dare you talk to me?
Yeah, so everything that's stupid about this movie is intentionally stupid. Like, the acting is over the top because it's supposed to be. Everything is dialed up to 11. Everything is totally exaggerated. And at the start of this, it feels more like a parody of like a college movie to me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And again, a lot of the kind of movies I'm thinking about did come after this, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because this is before like Animal House and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's what they were making before this, so I guess it makes sense that you have some of that energy here. Also, this guy is just like older Corey Feldman. It's really weird.
Yeah, I feel like he is the jock that's obsessed with working out that just hasn't discovered steroids yet. And if he just found steroids, he wouldn't be as stressed out and feeling the need to relieve that stress by running people over in his car.
Yeah, but where's the fun in that? You can't get points from working out, Cap.
Well, I gotta say, he is very lucky that there are no cops anywhere.
Well, there's one, like, German Nazi.
That's true, but there aren't any patrolmen.
No.
You can do literally any illegal thing you want to in the city, and I guess you can just say generically it's a real corrupt city with a mayor that's running all the organized crime, but I don't know why that means nobody minds if you run over children. Do you think she's wearing a shirt with, like, classic comic onomatopoeia because it's a superhero movie? Or do you think they're even thinking about that? Is it just very 80s looking?
No, it could be intentional, I think.
It might be.
I'm not
sure
because she's not wearing any shirt, but yeah.
Because that kind of throwback Art Deco thing was also real popular right then.
Oh yeah, true.
I do feel the need to give the obligatory praise of the movie gets right out in front and lets you know what it is right away. There's no questioning what the tone and the vibe is.
Mm-hmm. No, if you watch the first 5 minutes of this film, you will know whether you will like it or not.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what happened to me.
That's also what happened with me.
We're just on kind of opposite sides of the spectrum, which is why I like having you as a co-host, because we don't line up on everything.
Yeah.
This is not at all my sensibilities, naturally, and it's one of the. So this is my kind of broad review of this movie, Austin. I'll just get this out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
I don't like this movie. I respect its right to exist.
I mean, that's fair.
And that's my review.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why a lot of this kind of stuff is funny to people. Like, I just don't get the joke. Mm-hmm. And it's that subjective humor thing, right? Like, mm-hmm. I'm not trying to be a prude about it. If you find it funny, cool. I think you're a space alien, but cool. There are now. I'm not saying there's nothing.
This kid looks like a space alien with his silver.
I'm not saying there's nothing I laughed at in this movie. And there are ideas once we get to the actual superhero stuff that I legitimately like, and that I think are fun as a superhero parody. But I think the second half is a lot more fun and interesting than the first half. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the point is, like, this is supposed to be... It's just this kind of, like, shocking, edgy, this isn't supposed to exist, and isn't it funny that it exists? Especially in 1984.
When I feel like, too, this movie is RoboCop without being genuinely, like, a good sci-fi film. Like, this is the B-movie that RoboCop could have been.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And RoboCop isn't trying to be bad so much as exaggerated.
Mm-hmm. No, I just mean, like, when you hear, like, that title, you're like, okay, like, you know, half man, half robot, half man, all cop, or whatever. Like, you're like, okay, it's gonna be like a movie like this.
Yeah,
and then
consummate
you watch it,
B movie.
Yeah, and then Paul Verhoeven kind of raises it up beyond that. But I feel like this is kind of the movie you expect from something like that without a Paul Verhoeven.
And yet, this is also still a couple notches above what a lot of like smaller B-movie studios would have made with an idea like this, because it's a lot more creative, it's paced a lot better, there's not a lot of fat on it, right? Like,
yeah, there's not like long stretches that are really boring.
I say there's not a lot of fat on it. There are like action scenes, or I should say, like, you know, violent revenge scenes that go on way too long for my taste.
I mean, I would say...
But that's also part of the joke, I guess. Like, it's hard to lob grenades at this, because a lot of things I don't like about it are... Like it's doing what it's setting out to do. I just don't know why it wants to do any of those things. That's my thing.
To a degree, it's kind of review proof. But, no, with what you were saying, like... there is probably fat on this movie, but like at the same time, it's so unconcerned by that it's like, does it even really count? Like there will just be like long stretches of things that don't really matter, but it's entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, if you're entertained by it, that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's bold about it. It doesn't care if it's for everyone. It's like you either get it or you don't get it. And like I said, I appreciate that it at least is just as offensive at the start as it is by the end, right? So it's letting you know if you're going to want to get out of Dodge right away. I like that he's got to go to church. That's pretty funny. I do like how over the top the jock guy is, because again, just this dial up to 11 exaggeration of people that really did exist.
Oh,
They're just so obsessed with their image, are like real stressed out by the idea of anybody thinking that they're like nerdy or that they're not in shape. Obviously, this is a period where aerobics is like a fad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was originally the title was like, was it Health Club Horror, which really shocked me. But at the same time, once I rewatched it, I was like, okay, I agree with what you were saying to me when I was saying that to you, Cap, that there is a lot of that stuff in this, so I can kind of see...
well, that's closer to a lot of the kind of stuff that they were making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That title doesn't fit as well by the end. Like, I'm glad they gave it a superhero title, because it ends up being more of a superhero movie that I think Kaufman gave it credit for as he was making it.
No, it fits like the first 30 minutes more than the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically making a title about the origin.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you think about it, the structure of this is real paint-by-numbers classic superhero origin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got the nerdy kid and specifically 60s Marvel superhero origin. This is the superhero that gets hit by radioactivity, and he's a kid that's an outcast like Peter Parker, but again, totally exaggerated, dial up to 11, so he also has to have like a severe mental disorder. And he's got to be like completely out of touch and antisocial, and he's got a mom that he's trying to take care of, like Peter Parker with Aunt May, and then he's going to get hit by some kind of radioactive material that gives him superpowers, and then there's going to be and then he's going to start fighting crime, and there's going to be a debate amongst the people of the town or the city about whether he's a good thing or a bad thing, which I wish was brought more to the fore, and I wish the movie, I wish more of the runtime of the movie was that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I never really thought about it.
But it's a parody of all of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I never really thought about that, and then it's kind of been like running through my head all day since I listened to his commentary, where he talks about how critics really liked this because it kind of brought that like Marvel energy to superhero films, which we hadn't really seen on film yet. And I was like, I guess that's kind of true. Like, this is kind of the first movie that's doing some of that stuff.
It's really weird how innovative it feels at the time as far as that stuff goes. And I imagine that's what a lot of like comic nerds that really liked this and helped turn it into a cult classic were latching onto. Besides just the audacity of it, and to be fair, I don't know how else to say it, you know, the nudity and stuff. Because a lot of the guys reading comics in 1984 would have been very excited to see breasts every other scene in a movie. They just would have been. And I knew those guys in high school, and I saw this in high school, and I hated it, and I was at a friend's house staying overnight and wanted to run out of the house and go back to my parents' house, and I just wasn't in walking distance, so I couldn't.
We're gonna jump out the window like Melvin does.
And the guy that brought it over for us to watch, I think I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school. It was very much that, oh, you won't believe how many breasts are in this movie. It was that kind of thing.
Oh, that's funny.
And I don't know, and that wasn't enough to save it for me. But Anthony Cabrera, $10 super chat. Thanks so much. I'm sorry, what was that, Austin?
I said I love Pink Lois.
Yeah, I don't think that was intentional. But you can.
I don't think it was.
But it's there. So there's so much of that. Here in a minute, I'll break down the 5 things that I think the Toxic Avenger is, intentional or otherwise. And again, some of it is retroactive. Anthony Cabrera, what I like about Troma and Kaufman's direction is his movies are Mad Magazine-like. What a great point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I had not even thought about that, but that's exactly right. And it's that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's that kind of farce, and it's stylistic in that way, and it's cartoony in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
He says very maximalist. That's a great word. And his later films always have gags in the background that you're supposed to notice on your own.
Yeah, my one cousin, he and I watch a lot of bad movies together, and I know he doesn't really like Troma, and it falls into that intentionally bad thing. But I think for me, they kind of rise above that because it's not just, haha, doesn't this suck that you're watching this? It goes a little bit above that, so it kind of makes up for it. And I never really thought about that either, but you're right, it does have a Mad Magazine energy to it.
Yeah, I feel like you're right that it gets above that in the filmmaking, but I don't think it does at the script level until you get further in.
But it's also, the joke isn't entirely this sucks and you're watching it and it sucks. There isn't that element to it. But
I will say the first time I watched it, it felt that way.
No, I mean, fair enough.
So I'll push back on that a little bit because that was the experience I had, and I understand people that felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
Did I like this very much more years and years later? Not really, but I think I respect it a bit more. This is the kind of thing that I guess there is an audience for, but it does feel intentionally, again, like you said, it's not even review proof, right? It's intentionally self-indulgent. And I like it more listening to Kaufman talk about it because of his enthusiasm for it and understanding where some of his ideas came from. So, for him, it's a relatively, big budget home movie where it's here's a lot of things that come from my background and that I find really funny. And, once I know what those things are, I get why it exists, but I needed to listen to that before I appreciated it as much. Although I will say, watching this a couple days ago, without hearing that, I did have more of an appreciation for it than I did before, but I didn't enjoy it really, except for some things that maybe the last half hour.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great line when his skin is bubbling and boiling, and the main bully's he's faking it. I can tell he's faking it.
Yeah, that's funny. That kid is like Flash Thompson if he murdered Peter Parker.
If he was just regular Venom before Spider-Man.
That's true. Yeah, because he hates him for literally no reason. It's he's offended by the kid's outcast status. And as, again, an exaggerated parody thing, that makes a lot of sense. Because Melvin would be the exact opposite of what he's trying to look like. And what he wants his reputation to be. So he's an offense to that guy's existence.
Yeah. Well, and also too, Melvin's origin's very Carrie, and
Oh,
the
that's
bullies in
true.
this are like the Stephen King bullies taken to their farthest extreme.
See, I'm looking at it on such a comic book level that I
Well,
wasn't
yeah,
even
it kind of
thinking
fits
about that.
both.
Well, and especially because Troma made this intentionally as their first foray into horror.
Mhm.
And there's enough
Yeah,
body
exactly.
horror in some of the superhero stuff that it's looking at that I'm thinking more about that. So I should have thought about Carrie, especially because he
I
gets
only just thought of Carrie like a minute
just now
ago.
because he literally is on fire.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's true too. But it was specifically because like he gets dunked in the thing and he was covered in like the green slime. I was like, oh, this is kind of Carrie-y.
What do you think of the classical music choice of Night on Bald Mountain?
um, I find it very amusing every time it pops up.
That's another kind of intentionally cheap seeming choice, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so too.
But it maybe works on a couple of levels where it's like simultaneously it feels like we didn't have the money to pay a composer to do all of the music, and so like the main. By the way, all this makeup stuff is really impressive.
Hmm.
It's actually like legitimately really impressive looking.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta love the purple color choice here. But I was just gonna say, like, his theme song is gonna be a classic piece of music that everybody knows from Fantasia, and that makes it seem intentionally cheaper. But also, it makes it feel like it's what's the word I'm looking for? This movie's so distracting.
I know,
It's
right?
easier to just talk about without looking at it. I never noticed that sign before. Sorry, that sign's really funny. And now we get Cigar Phase.
Yeah, classic gangster.
And this cross dresser that's calling everybody a word I don't want to say on the channel, which by itself is pretty funny. Because like you seem like obviously flamboyantly gay, but you're complaining that everybody else is. Like this movie makes fun of literally every kind of person there is.
Mhm.
Do you have that thing, Austin? I bet you do. Where equal opportunity offensiveness kind of cancels out all the offensiveness.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best kind of offensiveness. If you hate everyone, then you hate no one.
You know, like it's like really cynical and mean-spirited, and then by making fun of every kind of person, it turns right back around and feels more wholesome. It's weird.
Yeah, because it means this movie has true equality.
That is a thing I did not have the first time I saw it that made me appreciate it a smidge more.
Mm.
And that kind of is just a matter of a bunch of images I don't want to be exposed to. It's really all it is at the end of the day.
Hey, this still has the best on-screen Two-Face. And cigar face.
Oh, I guess what I was going to say is the music also makes it seem like it wants to try to dupe you into thinking that it's a little classier than it is, or that it's trying to be cultured or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think that's maybe part of the joke too.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's like this is a totally like classless dumb movie, but it's made by people that like a lot of real art also.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta know the rules to be able to break them.
Sure, we'll pretend like this has that. I think it sort of does. Again, especially when you look at something like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Mm. Yeah, for sure.
I can't decide how effective. I'm trying to talk about this at as close to the level I usually talk about these movies as I possibly can. Because so many things that I might say don't work, it's really easy to just go, well, they're not supposed to. It doesn't want to work in the traditional storytelling sense. But there is this intentional choice to conceal the Toxic Avenger's face for a long time. We talk about this all the time in movies, like with Red Skull, like with Ninja Turtles. I don't know how effective it is in this movie.
I mean, I think it works well enough. I mean, it's not like Jaws or anything.
Well, I can't decide if that's part of a joke or if they legitimately think it's cool that you have to wait that long and then you finally see it. You're like, look how cool this makeup job is. Like, he's got like one eye that's further down than the other one. Like, is it absurd how long we're waiting, or do they not think it's absurd? That's what's awkward about it to me. Is I can't decide if they think that's part of the absurdity.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kaufman doesn't talk about it that way in his commentary, but Kaufman is also a completely unreliable narrator. I feel like that commentary is almost part of the piece now, and I'm having a hard time not wanting to talk about it just as much as the movie, because I cannot always tell when he's joking, and about 20% of the things he says in that, I don't know if he's making up things or not.
No, that commentary is like genuinely really funny.
And he's a great commentator.
Yes, he is.
I would love to talk to him. Mm-hmm. Like, if I could get him on and get him to do a commentary on another like superhero parody movie, that would be wonderful. And I don't even like his movie. I just think he's interesting. And
I'm like, do it so that I can talk to Lloyd Kaufman.
And he's again, and obviously I don't know if I could get him on, but I would consider it if I could. Mm-hmm. I don't think I know anybody that knows Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah, I don't know.
The other thing that hit me watching this again, Austin, is Lloyd Kaufman ended up with... Sorry. The Toxic Avenger's voice is so funny. That's maybe my favorite thing with this movie, is that he is this nerdy, like, typical sounding kid. What is that 90s movie, Austin, with like the kid with the curly hair that's got the goofy glasses, that's also kind of a cult classic?
The 90s film with the kid with the curly hair with glasses?
Yeah, I've never seen it, so I can't remember the name of it, but he's that archetype, whatever that movie's called. I can't think of it. Anyway, somebody will know what I'm talking about. I can't think of it. I think it's a movie that you've told me you like, but I can't think of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't think of it off of that. Yeah,
it's a comedy, and anyway. It's not important. Have you ever met my mother-in-law? Napoleon Dynamite. Thank you, Dan Stead. That's what.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's that type. So he's like a Napoleon Dynamite, and then he ends up with like a real classic deep superhero voice. Mm-hmm. That sounds like he should be the narrator.
I mean, kind of. He does sound like a narrator.
And I actually kind of wish the narrator voice at the beginning of the movie was him. Mm-hmm. But like not even doing any kind of like, because we get the narrator again at the end, and I wouldn't even want like a cute bookend about it where it's like, yeah, I was narrating my own movie the whole time. I just think it'd be fun if it was his voice and you just never even draw attention to the fact that it's that voice.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great.
Meanwhile, in Tromaville. I wish that's
Meanwhile, at the sauna.
Anthony Cabrera put in a $4.99 super chat. Kaufman was a Yale graduate and directed 2 Troma Shakespeare films. He knows class, he just doesn't use it. Yeah, and when he breaks character in interviews and you listen to him just talk about film, like, he's extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah, that was what I really liked about his commentary, is that he's both really funny and I also thought he was very informative at the same time. And you're right, there's things where I'm like, I can't always tell when he's joking, but it's kind of added to like his persona.
Can I just say that is a very muscular woman?
Yeah.
Like, she looks like a stunt woman.
She probably was.
Yeah, probably so. She probably jumped out of a building in this movie. Yeah, one thing that I thought was fun to learn in Kaufman's commentary was, and I guess I should have expected this, was just how many like walk-ons and extras were just like in the police force or were like, you know, army men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was really funny when he was like, "Oh yeah, you can tell who's the real cops and who are Troma actors because the Troma actors are wearing kids' costumes." He's like, "Their hats don't fit."
I could have used an even longer walking montage with him, just because for some reason I think it would be really funny.
Oh, go like the full like sad. Was that the Lonely Man?
Yes.
Except it's night on Bald Mountain.
There might be more than a nod to that in my movie, by the way.
Hell yeah. Is there also a part in your movie where you make a home out of trash?
No, I wasn't inspired enough by Toxic Avenger, I guess.
Oh, okay. You saw it too late for this rewatch.
I think the incorporation of the tutu into his... I don't know if I can call it a costume or his body at this point. I'm not really sure. But I actually think that's kind of a you know, in a weird way, a neat and thoughtful choice, because it's like he's tragically forced, and I mean, again, in an exaggerated, farcical way, but just within the context of this loony story. I can't believe I'm analyzing the story of the Toxic Avenger. He is forced to Austin's clapping like a seal again. You gotta love the National Wildlife Preserve on a toxic dump site. The satire about environmentalism in this is actually pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing I legitimately really enjoy about this.
Yeah, especially listening to him talk about it, it's like, oh, there's things you were actually kind of wanting to talk about.
But I like that he is, you know, tragically humiliated and dies because of that. And I mean, he's somewhat responsible for his own death. And he, you know, he goes and gets revenge on everybody responsible for humiliating him, but like he didn't have to jump out that window. Mm-hmm. But anyway, and he's forced to live the remainder of his days wearing the outfit he was forced into to be humiliated. And then he uses that to scare people and get his comeuppance. All of that is real classic revenge thriller stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And a really good kind of marriage of the horror and the superhero stuff, because that's a very horror idea that then turns into a superhero costume.
Mm-hmm.
Or his body.
Being kind of like a, you know, the Thing or Hulk.
Yeah, and so just like the Tick, I don't know if that's his body or not.
I don't think he ever takes it off in any of the movies, so it might just be his body.
Well, and he hilariously somehow has sex wearing it, so it must be his body, because he doesn't take it off.
Like
my favorite story...
Lizard, it like opens up.
My favorite story from the Kaufman commentary is that they hired a guy missing an arm, which is really smart. So that when he gets his arm blown off, they don't have to do an effect, and then they did an effect anyway, where they put a prosthetic, and Kaufman wasn't there when they did it, and he got there, and he was like, that's stupid, why are we doing that? They put a prosthetic stump, if he's to be believed. I don't think he made this up. They put a prosthetic stump on his actual stump, and then it didn't matter that they hired a paraplegic.
Yeah, that part's great. That and
or I guess that wouldn't be a paraplegic, would it? It would just be an amputee. An amputee.
Yeah, exactly. No, that is absolutely one of the best parts of that commentary.
I couldn't believe that because at first I was like, "Oh yeah, that's really smart."
Yeah.
He's missing an arm, and then I went, "Well, wait a minute." He's got all that stuff coming out. I don't know that you needed a man missing an arm. And he said they had to comb real hard to find an actor that was like right for this part, willing to do it, and an amputee. And the guy that got is great.
No, he's awesome. I also love that once you know that, his like fake arm is so obvious. Like it's just like that the whole time.
Oh, that's true.
It's way funnier.
It's like I don't know if you'll know this reference, Austin, but it's like the broken robot Zaphod Beeblebrock's head in the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy miniseries on the BBC. Because they built an animatronic head. Because Zaphod Beeblebrox is supposed to have two heads, Austin. And they built a robot head that was supposed to, like, his mouth would move and everything. And it was completely busted and didn't work at all. But they ran out of money, so they just left it on him. And so he's just got this, like, dead-looking head that occasionally the mouth will slightly open. It's great.
It also reminded me a lot of Arrested Development. There's an episode where there's a guy that has one arm, and he like puts on a fake arm to like teach kids lessons. It reminded me of that. Yeah, it seemed like he was beating him up with his good arm because his other arm was only made to be ripped off.
I'm wondering if I would have liked this movie more if I came into it half an hour in.
That is possible.
But then I would also have to sit through all the gross kills in this scene, and a lot of that I just don't like. We start to get into food fight territory.
Yeah, but it's with Two-Face. We have both Two-Face and Alicia Masters introduced in this sequence.
Yeah, and actually that's a good segue into my 5-prong mix of things that I think the Toxic Avenger is. So tell me if you agree with this, Austin. So he's the Thing in that he's got an Alicia Masters. Because he's got a blind girlfriend that doesn't know what he looks like and loves him for who he is. And he's also the Thing in that he's transformed and would maybe like to transform back, but he can't. But of course, that's just the archetype of all of these monster types. Because obviously all this starts with Frankenstein, this monster in the first place. And Lloyd Kaufman talks about how the initial premise of this starts from the idea of, well, what if the monster lives? Which is a good idea. Like, Frankenstein's monster always has to die at the end. But the protagonist is always the monster. So what if it wasn't that tragic, and when you get to the end, it's actually a happy ending for him? Which is hilarious because of how mean-spirited I feel like this movie feels at the beginning. And then at the end, it's a very happy ending.
That is true. Again, the Alicia Masters thing is one of those I'm not sure if it's a comic reference or if they just came to that from the same place. Because I think it could go either way. I would be
shocked if Lloyd Kaufman knows who Alicia Masters is.
Because it could also be like possibly a reference to the blind man from Bride of Frankenstein, but also that's kind of just an obvious thing to do with this kind of monster character. So
yeah, you don't want to give him too much credit for that. On the other hand, it is kind of nice that this ends up being a love story and that he gets what he wanted, like, all along. Because if you think about it, like, he gets the thing that he's after when he's, desperate enough for companionship and I guess maybe just sex. That turns him into the Toxic Avenger in the first place.
One thing I think that this has over the sequels is I think they genuinely have chemistry in this, while in the sequels I think she's more of a one-note joke, and she is in this as well, but I think I just like the actress in this one more than the sequels.
Yeah, she's kind of blind out, really.
Mm-hmm.
Except he's dating her.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's not addicted to cocaine.
As far as we know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible.
I mean, I think in one of the sequels they have the cure for blindness, so she kind of is.
That's hilarious. This is one of those scenes that is going on longer than I want it to, but it's because I don't find any of this funny.
Mm-hmm. No, fair enough.
I'm not trying to burst your bubble. I'm just...
I mean, you're not.
I'm just telling everybody my experience with this.
This is just building up for the joke I think is better, which is all the cops investigating this while eating tacos.
Yeah, no, that's funny. And all they're doing is critiquing the tacos.
Yeah,
that's very funny. Yeah, there's places where it's funny we haven't brought this up yet, Austin, because it's interesting that we're reviewing this so close to when we tackled Captain Invincible, because that's another in the B-movie vein kind of movie that's very kitchen sink and farcical. But I like the story better. I think the story is more genuine, and I like that it's not as much of a straight up, ridiculous farce as this is. But the places I'm enjoying this the most are when it's running into the clever humor that's more in the vein of something like that. Mm-hmm. And everybody critiquing the taco shop is definitely a Captain Invincible kind of joke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I'm gonna go through my list now. So he's the Thing. Mm-hmm. He's Spider-Man, as we already talked about. I kind of went through why that is. Surely you had this thought, and I would imagine this is part of why you like this movie. He's very Man-Thing.
Yeah, a little bit.
And in some ways, he's a little bit more Swamp Thing.
I was going to say, yeah, there's maybe a bit more Swamp Thing.
The place where I found a lot of Man-Thing in him, though, Austin, is he's drawn to evil and has to kill it.
Yeah,
and so
that is a very Man-Thing.
That's very Man-Thing, and Swamp Thing doesn't have that. Mm-hmm. So, he's still self-aware and is himself, like Swamp Thing is. He's not transformed, as far as we know, into a different thing. It's not like the soul of him goes away and now all that's left is a monster, like with Man-Thing. But he does have this kind of primal earthy thing where he's like this kind of supernatural thing where he is forced to compelled and can't help himself but to go and find evil. And it's supernatural because and I guess that's his superpower, Austin. It took me a minute to understand this. I don't think it's made clear enough in the third act, but he seems to have a sixth sense, sort of like Ghost Rider with the penance there, where he knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake, right?
Yeah.
And he just intrinsically knows that. It's like this... He's tapped into some kind of, universal force that tells him that.
Yeah, what is it that Kaufman says in his commentary? The tromatons in his body?
The tromatons, yeah! He makes up some
BS. He's around evil.
It's awesome. Because one of the things that I thought was actually a really interesting idea that I wanted it to spend more time on, I looked at the timestamp, Austin, and was surprised that at the point where everyone's wondering if he's just a brainless monster that will kill anything that moves, and they were wrong about him, that he's only going after the bad people, there's only 13 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah, no, it's right at the end.
And I was like, well, this should have been the crux of the story. This is legitimately an interesting idea, and it does give you that classic, typical, almost good guy being framed kind of story. Mm-hmm. It's not actually a framing thing, although you do have the corrupt mayor, the mob boss, taking advantage of it. So, he's not really framing him, but he's drawing it to the forefront. So, it's not a frame job if he's actually killing innocent people. But then at the point where the mayor realizes that the woman kills the little person in the dryer or whatever was not a good person, then he's trying to wipe that under the rug.
Yeah, that's also one of my favorite jokes where they're like, oh, wait a minute, she actually wasn't good. She was actually running like a white slavery ring.
They picked the most insane, absurd thing they can possibly think of.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's like the absolute most insane crime you could have come up with.
Anthony Cabero, here's the mid-movie scientist explanation for some reason.
Yes, and in the fourth movie, this guy will be played by James Gunn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not like exactly this guy, but like exactly what he just said. Like he pops up as a scientist to explain the multiverse.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, he's basically Stephen Hawking, and he's surrounded by like bikini women. It's really funny.
Well, I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be exposition to tell the audience what's actually going on, or if it's just a mad scientist guy trying to explain what's happening.
A bit of both.
But like, does he have any credibility at all?
Scientists are they always know. They're always crazy. They always know.
But now that I know that the idea really is he can just sniff out evil and doesn't even have to know what you've done to know that you deserve to die. And I mean, in the context of this, obviously I'm not saying that it's okay for him to go around, murdering people horribly.
That woman is running a white slavery ring.
But at the point I knew that, now that I'm looking at this again, I guess that is trying to at least plant the idea in our brains that he is that he is compelled to destroy evil.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason why, like, I think it kind of comes to being a superhero thing accidentally is because apparently that's just a reference to a script he was working on with Stan Lee.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, initially, like, this is part of what the idea was. So, like, it kind of just comes to that, I guess, in the script-making phase.
Yeah, well, he's got as much in common with, like, Golden and Silver Age pulp monster things as he does actual superheroes. And we talk all the time about how those things get blended. Hey, can I nitpick something stupid?
Absolutely.
I don't like the spinning newspapers.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Because I keep waiting for them to stop, and they never stop. Like, we just keep cutting to them, and it's like, well, I get, like, spinning it, and then maybe, because he talks in the commentary about how they just had, like, a little thing that they spun around, and they couldn't make it stop. But it's weird that we keep in montages cutting to it, like we just can't wait to find out what the headline's gonna be. And we'll come back to it like 4 times before you finally see the headline. And like, I get spinning it and then cutting to something else and then coming back to what the headline is, but building anticipation for the headline is just frustrating.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yes, I'm complaining about this.
That's fine.
Here's another thing I'll complain about, Austin.
Yeah.
I think the Toxic Avenger waits way too long to kill the people that are arguably actually responsible for what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. Well, now he's just Michael Myers. Like, it's the ghost bit in the first Halloween.
That's true.
But even more absurd, because he's walking and going... Rrr.
We also have to make sure that the audience hates her even more than we already do by having her do the most disgusting, insane thing that anyone does in this movie. Arguably.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to quantify.
I don't know. Masturbating to photography of someone you murdered is pretty up there. That's this scene, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Yep, I had to say that on a Geekvolution video.
Well, now they drop, like, the kid thing? With the guy that's, like, selling the kid. That's also, like, one of the more messed up things in this movie.
Oh, I guess I missed that. Oh, Yes, because he says she's 12 and she's clearly like 19.
Yeah. But he goes, she's 12 and you can have her for $12.
For $12?
I just really like when she walks up and goes, "You said you were going to take me to a David Bowie concert. That's not David Bowie."
Yeah, he's not just your average pimp. He's actually like kidnapping girls and forcing them into prostitution.
He's like a Garth Ennis Punisher villain, yeah. That and he's dressed like Austin Powers. Like, what a scumbag.
Again, it ends up seeming lighter because we make fun of everything. Like, there's prostitution and Nazis, and some of the Nazi stuff's pretty funny.
Yeah, which is maybe because Frankenstein's like a German thing, and the chief that's the Nazi police is like the guy that leads the people to get the monster, like in Frankenstein. Maybe. That might be reaching.
Yeah, I think that's probably reaching. But I mean, it could be.
It could be.
I bet that was so much of the superhero stuff, too. See, look, we're spending this... Why are we doing that? He's got to get these sunglasses on. This montage is pretty funny.
But it's very stock 80s music.
I thought it was messed up to learn... Like, this is where Lloyd Kaufman has no shame, and he'll make fun of literally anything. And he's got a very extreme version of the idea that you could joke about anything, and that, like, nothing is off the table. The idea that... See, like, why do we spin it that way? The idea that... Or sorry, he gets the joke about running down people in the street for points from a real thing that actually happened.
Oh, yeah. I feel like that was also a thing that, like, popped up in movies, like, around this time, too, that, like, a lot of things were doing. But nothing's immediately coming to mind. But I feel like I've seen that in a few places, too.
That's the thing is, this is such a place and time kind of movie. Like, maybe that's a dumb point to make, but there's a lot of things in this, even more than a lot of other movies from this period, that I feel like I would probably get the joke and appreciate more if I had been an adult while it was happening. You know, some of it I get, obviously, like the aerobic stuff, the environmentalism, all of the elitism stuff, and the organized crime, because there's so many movies that are doing that right then. And so much urban upheaval and organized crime happening in big cities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of that stuff is, like you said, is very much the time, like, you know, you're going to get all that in, like, RoboCop and whatnot, too. Which, another part of why I see them as kind of similar movies, just made at different levels.
No, you're absolutely right. And RoboCop maybe should be the 6th thing on this list, like, retroactively. And I also think that the things that feel a little Frank Miller-y in this movie, also completely unintentional.
Yeah.
I don't think it's looking at any of that.
This is the same year as Dark Knight Returns, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, it's a year before. 2 years before that. Dark Knight Returns is like 86, I think.
Oh, no, sorry. You said this is 84. Sorry. For some
this is
reason
84.
I was thinking it was 86. Yeah.
But there's a lot of superhero parody stuff, because Miller is huge right then, that is coming out then, including Ninja Turtles. And Ninja Turtles is one of the things on my list.
Okay.
Because this predates a lot of the, like, gross sewer stuff that got really popular for kids by just a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, like, it also gets ahead of some of that, even though this obviously isn't meant for kids. But it also is specifically Ninja Turtles in that he's transformed by toxic waste And the turtles, like, it's radioactive goo, but like it's a similar kind of idea. And the ooze is supposed to be a parody of the radioactive stuff that transforms Daredevil. So like all of that is in there, and then he is a creature that, well, first of all, he's green, and he's a creature that everybody would see as this horrible monster, but in at least the Ninja Turtles cartoon series, very quickly a lot of the city just accepts them as heroes. And he will have that in this.
Yeah, and I've always kind of wondered if the cartoon is maybe kind of satirizing that show, but...
Oh, absolutely it is. Because that's already gigantic by then.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know anything about the show, too, so I'm like... I don't know how satirical the show is.
But there's no way it's not. There's no way it didn't get greenlit because of Ninja Turtles, because there's so many things right then that do like that. You know, you have Biker Mice from Mars, and you had Street Sharks, and like that doesn't become a cartoon show because these, as much because these had a following as just it's a premise that sells well by then. And it just happens to start from this place. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes also had one of those.
And there's Marissa Tomei.
That also had a children's show. Yeah, isn't that weird?
Yeah. I mean, she's going to be back in a second, but...
What is she doing in this movie?
I don't know. She kind of peaked early in her career, though.
So anyway, I've done a horrible job getting through this list, but he's the Thing, he's Spider-Man, he's got some Ninja Turtles, he's got some Man-Thing, and then, again, retroactively, although the comic would have already been out by now, he's kind of the Crow.
Yeah?
And lots of other just comic revenge thriller type things, but, like, he's also that supernatural wraith that's brought back to take out his own killers. And I mean, I guess he's brought back more generically to just take out any evil that he finds, which again makes him more like a classic monster than the Crow.
Yeah, and the Crow like is like kind of similar to RoboCop in that way as well too. So it's kind of like both.
And all three of these things have really similar thuggy comic villains. Right, like Cigar Face fits just as well in a Crow or in a... What was the other thing we just brought up?
RoboCop.
In a RoboCop, yeah.
That one henchman that had like an afro that was like rainbow colored, that guy could be in RoboCop.
And it's also structured a little bit like the Crow, in that he's gradually picking off all these characters throughout the movie.
Yeah, exactly, because it's also kind of like a slasher film.
And I was going to say, he becomes his own slasher villain, but we're rooting for him.
Yeah, because the sequence here is like right out of Nightmare on Elm Street, like with the location.
And the lighting.
Yeah.
And this is a relatively well-shot scene.
That's well done.
I'm finding it very surreal that I'm sitting here doing a commentary with you right now on this movie. And you gotta have the classic arm coming out shot.
Oh, of course.
Anthony Cabrera, 499 Super Chat. Thanks, man. The first episode of the cartoon is a PG pilot recreation of the movie, and it works. We've got to watch that, Austin.
That sounds amazing.
It does.
This guy's nuts.
He's just insane. He has to be on something.
He's high on crystal Troma. That and he's just hanging out with Corey Feldman all day, so he's like constantly high.
I feel like this whole movie is an argument for not working out.
I kind of.
It's like, you know what? You might be better off just getting fat. You know, it's fine. Except also, one of the worst people in the movie is a big fat guy. So see, it plays both sides.
One of my favorite things in this movie is when that old woman gets punched. The noise she makes is so uncanny. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, it is.
She gets punched and she's like, "Ah!"
Lloyd Kaufman in his commentary talks about a couple of actors that were so put off by the material of this movie that they either quit or never worked with him again. And there are a number of actors that I'm finding myself wondering if they also had that and he just didn't bring it up. You know, like, how did that old lady in that scene feel about that scene?
Oh, that was probably the highlight of her life.
And then she died, like, the very next week.
I think she died, like, an hour later.
See, this movie is making it very difficult for me not to just go to, like, really off-color humor myself, you know?
But that's
I'm feeling tasteless while I'm watching it. Like all the jokes that are coming to me, I don't know. I'm becoming a sponge with this. I don't even like this movie.
That's what I mean with, like, for me, like, it doesn't even come across as super off color at times. Like, that's like a Weird Al joke. Like, these guys walked over and beat up an old woman. Like, I could see that in UHF. Like, I don't even see that as being super crazy.
That's true. But you gotta admit, the kid, we didn't really talk about this, the kid getting run over at the beginning, that's pretty messed up.
That is genuinely, like, one I can understand.
And, like, I don't care that it's actually a melon. Like, when you know how they did it, yeah, it's, you know, it's absurd and it's fun to know how they pulled it off and all of that. But, like, I can't have fun watching a kid get run down and then run down again. I don't know. Like,
yeah. No, that one.
Call me a prude. There's not a context where I find that funny, Austin.
No, I get it. This location, by the way, is right out of the end of RoboCop, or not the end. Sorry, when he's fighting Clarence Boddicker in the.
It's straight up RoboCop. 20 years before RoboCop.
Yeah. But no, the kid thing I can understand. It's like a taste issue. Like, that is the thing in this the most that I can see that with.
Well, the problem is it comes so early that I'm put off very quickly. I mean, that's 10 minutes in.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, like we said at the beginning, like, it's good that they front load that, though. So, like, you know what you're getting into, even though it never really goes that far. Again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but then there's nowhere to go from there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, but then you're watching this scene like, uh-oh, are they going to run through all of these children? Because they could.
Like, then once again, I said this on a video recently, I feel like at that point, all you can do to top it is have someone have sex with a corpse. That's all you got at that point.
It's the one thing they got.
That doesn't happen in this. Here, take the wheel. That's pretty good.
One of my favorite things with this car burning is that when he gets out, it's clearly just they let that car burn, and then when it cooled down, they got back in it. Because it's, like, that cheap.
I think it's important to note...
I don't know that you would do that with, like, a bigger movie, but I think that's very amusing.
I think it's important to note that the evil jock kid, when he's screaming and freaking out with all those people in front of him, he's got to know that there's a ledge, or that, like, there's an edge that the car's about to go over and he's going to die, because he should be really excited about the sheer number of people he's about to run over. Like, usually that face would be, oh my god, I'm going to hit all these people and get out of the way. This is the one character in movies
he's about to get the high score.
Everyone, yeah. He's never going to be able to beat that. He's about to take out 18 people in a row. He won't even be able to count all the points. He's not going to be able to even figure out how many points he'd get for each of them based on age or decrepitness or... I am adjusting too much to this material.
I love when they introduce this little woman. Her very first line is, "Yoo-hoo, Mr. Wilson." Like, she's Dennis the Menace.
Just the idea that this woman runs a human trafficking ring. Like, that's legitimately funny. It's so absurd.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I think the problem is that I'm extremely picky when it comes to slapstick. And as soon as Kaufman in his commentary brought up Three Stooges, I was like, yep, that's why it doesn't click with me. Like, I've never found any of that remotely funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Stuff doesn't do anything for me at all.
Interesting. Okay. No, I like the Three Stooges a lot, but I can appreciate that.
So where the black comedy in this movie really works for me is more just ideas that are talked about that aren't even seen. Like, all you have to do is say, this little person is running a human trafficking ring, and I don't need to see anything. That's hilarious. Just say it. Like, it's very funny.
That's beautiful. No, I thought his story about her in the commentary was also really funny.
Yeah.
Where she was in a comedy movie that he did, and she was like really happy because it was like her first role where she wasn't like the little person, like she just got to play a role.
And then when he cast her again, she was?
Yeah, and then she does this where she runs away from the Toxic Avenger and he throws her into a clothes dryer.
And then Anthony Cabrera brings up the story about how that stunt driver almost died.
Yes,
which he talks about, and I think Lloyd Kaufman is being 100% honest and transparent when he says if that guy had died, they would have stopped making movies. I believe that.
No, I do too, because you can kind of see like a change of tone where he's like, I don't badmouth people that I work with, but
there are places where I can't tell if he's in character, but about 80% of the time, I think he does a really good job of jumping back and forth.
Yeah.
Between his silly Kaufman character, and that was the thing I was going to say earlier, is his last name was prophetic.
Yeah.
Because there's not that big of a leap between his sense of humor and Andy Kaufman's sense of humor. Like, they're both trolling you. Like, intentionally.
If only we got to see them combine.
Well, and it's also really interesting because their careers are real close to the same time. Kaufman would predate this stuff by a few years, I guess. Because that's all. Because he starts like late 70s, right? Like the early SNL and Taxi and all of that.
One of the best visual gags just happened a minute ago, where she's looking at a braille mirror.
See, Kaufman, and rightly so, he complains a lot in the commentary, and he talks about this a lot just in general in lots of interviews and things about the ratings board and how unfairly independent creators were treated, and not being able to get an R rating with violent, raunchy things as easily as the mainstream. And he's like, that's absolutely fair and understandable, and I think he's spot on about it, and I get why he's so frustrated about it. And there was a rated R cut of this where so much was cut out he didn't want anybody to see it. Kind of a similar situation actually as Captain Invincible, but because of my own sensibilities and the things that I'm actually finding funny in this, Austin, I kind of want the cut where all the violence is cut out of it.
Yeah.
It would also be 33 minutes long.
That is true. But because I already hate the MPAA, like, I don't like that they exist to censor things. They should exist to tell people, like, hey, this is where it is, like, this is what's in it.
No, that's exactly right. And they abuse that power.
Yeah, they absolutely abuse that power. I don't like that, he talks in that commentary that shot where they punch the old woman, which again is like a joke I can see Weird Al doing in UHF. Got them an MPAA, so they had to cut that for the R-rated cut. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, and I think there's a bias that'll happen where
NC-17. I think I just said.
You said even, yeah, like that's a rating. I wasn't going to correct you. It's fine. Everybody knows what you're talking about.
NC-17. Yeah, everyone knows what I'm talking about.
You're saying stupid crap, but everybody understands.
I watched this movie twice in a row. Okay, my brain cells are going down a little bit.
Well, look, I'm glad that you can at least admit what it's doing to your brain.
No, exactly. You know those eggs that they were eating earlier that apparently were a week old when he ate
that
them?
I don't believe. I think he's being silly when he says
no
that.
way. There's no way.
They're plastic eggs. They're clearly not real.
They're clearly not real. But those eggs, that is my brain watching this film.
Yeah, because Kaufman also says that the actor wasn't able to eat in that suit, and then he says, unfortunately, he had to eat all those eggs. Like, that can't be true. He couldn't eat. You just told me that half an hour ago. I love that commentary.
It's really good.
I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to rate the movie. The commentary gets at least a superhero, if not a legend.
Mm-hmm. No, that is one of the better commentaries I've ever listened to. It makes me really excited to do the sequels just to see if they have as good commentaries.
Yeah.
Because I also know he doesn't like 2 and 3, so I'm interested to see what those look like.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, he didn't when he made 4. Maybe he's like retroactively come to peace with them.
Yeah, I wonder how like open and honest he'd be about that, or if like it's a Troma thing, so I'm gonna be as positive as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Cabrera, 99 super chat. Thanks, man. Appreciate all the support tonight, guys. One of his later movies has a car crash that almost killed Kaufman. Oh, wow. And Troma would no longer do car stunts after that. But they would reuse the car stunt he filmed as a running joke. I'm so glad you told us that story. That's great.
That's beautiful, yeah.
I mean, it's not great he almost died, but...
Yeah, but like the fact that became a running joke was really funny. But, I mean, thank God he didn't die.
I had a lot of respect for him. I don't understand some of his sense of humor and why he makes movies like this. I don't. I legitimately don't. Yeah. But I had a lot of respect for him in listening to his insights about how this company makes movies. Mm-hmm. And they're like 3 laws that they post everywhere, where they make a really big deal out of safety, and then the least important thing is making a good movie, which as far as like keeping everybody safe, like obviously the most important thing should be making a good movie, except making sure that nobody dies on your set, right?
I mean, it's, during this period, like, that wasn't always necessarily
not a given. Not with a $500,000 movie. Like, yeah, not a given.
But even like mainstream Hollywood, like at this point, like this is that kind of new Hollywood era that would end up dying with the Twilight Zone movie, where they were taking a lot of like unnecessary risks on things. So even like with that, like, it's amazing that they had that mentality.
Well, and I think it's cool because those rules, the way he wrote them, because he says, make a good movie is like the third thing and in much smaller print. And so, like, it simultaneously shows that there's a real code of ethics, right? And he says they paste it everywhere, like it's really important.
Yeah.
But then there's also a really funny joke in that.
Absolutely. That and the part where he gets like really offended about smoking in movies is really funny.
So, like I said, just getting back to the story of this, such as it is, like I said, I don't think that the movie makes it clear enough early enough that and I keep wanting to call him Toxic Avenger. He's not even called that in the movie, and they don't know that he's going to be called that yet. Which is a little bit of a shame for the sake of the movie, because it feels a little bit more generic, where everybody is just calling him the monster. But at least you don't have that, although you could have done a joke about it, I guess, that moment where somebody names him. You don't have that.
I guess it's also the like Frankenstein thing, like the monster hero.
Oh, yeah,
Toxic Avenger.
Well, and considering that that's their biggest story influence It ends up making it look like a parody as much of Frankenstein as it is of anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And that's obviously like what we're doing here. Like the townspeople are now coming for the monster.
And then it's not going to work out the way it usually does. So like they really flipped that. Which works on a parody level, but it's also like kind of the most inspired thing in the movie, I guess. Because it actually brings something new to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and with the like the Tromatons thing, I guess like it is that it's supposed to be a twist. So, like that's why they don't make it clear from the beginning. Like it's supposed to be a reveal here.
Yeah, I guess my problem with it is it just comes too late.
Like,
like the whole idea of it comes too late. I wish that had been a mystery for longer in the movie. That's my issue with it. I like that there's finally a revelation that he's not actually killing innocent people, and that he has to do this. I wish we had a longer time where he wrestles with it, because it's too late before I can tell if he actually knew whether or not she was bad. Like I think we move away from him too much because he's been
well, because I think with that it's supposed to be like into that monster parody thing where we sort of move away from him and you're supposed to wonder like, oh, like okay, now he's like full on monster, like that's where we've gone.
Yeah,
but then the joke is that he's not.
Well, I guess that's fair. Like, if we just completely cut away from him and we had kind of a different, like, Aizen character we're following. I also didn't get that the girlfriend doesn't know he's the monster until that's revealed.
Yeah, she's just very ditzy. It's like she can't tell that he's, like, deformed and messed up. And she literally was there when he killed all those people.
Yeah, that's true. Does that work as like a joke reveal? Because I felt like that was the movie maybe just not communicating that to me, where they thought I knew that. Like I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, it just plays like a joke. Like, oh well, she's blind, so of course she doesn't know that.
Okay, fair enough. I'll give it that one.
When I feel like, especially when you get to the sequels, like I think she loses brain cells with each movie, and it is funny. I love that the mayor is here with a gun to kill the monster. Like he came out personally. I think that's very funny.
I feel like there's scenes where that actor looks like he's trying to remember his lines. And I don't know who that is. I know Kaufman talks about him as like technically the most like experienced and well-known actor of this movie, and I'm like, he's the actor that I most feel like he's got his script on his lap.
Oh, that's funny.
Do you think that it makes, again, I'm actually analyzing this, do you think that it makes Melvin, the Toxic Avenger, more sympathetic that it's not just revenge? Like, again, this idea that he's just naturally compelled and cannot help himself but to destroy evil people? Because there's also, at the same time, kind of a sadistic part to him too, where like he's got his one-liners, he's laughing while he's doing it, and especially the people that killed him, like he is getting off on killing them, but he would kill them even if they didn't do anything to him, because that's his purpose in life.
Yeah, no, I mean I think it works really well for it being a superhero film, that you have that aspect where he genuinely wants revenge. And then he's fighting criminals outside of that, and he handles them very differently. And then this film also does a thing that a lot of superhero films, especially now, forgets, which is he's actually helping people too. And like a lot of that's very silly, but it does.
Well, and again, it's a cartoon, because it's also very silly that they're all just fine with how sadistic and brutal he is. But that goes back to, and again, I don't think this is necessarily on purpose, but that goes back to the culture of dependency thing with 60s Batman, and very often with Superman, where they don't care how it's getting done. It's getting done, and I think retroactively this watches like a good parody of even '89. Where you get into that movie, and it's like, hey, thanks for helping us, Batman, by like plunging the Joker to his death. You're like, nobody talks about that. You know, there's no discussion about due process or like there is, you know, a little bit of the like, you know, if he's actually out there, we're not gonna be okay with vigilante justice. And then it's the government at the end of the movie that says like, oh, we've got a signal, we're gonna call him whenever we need help. Like, this came out years before that, but it retroactively watches like a parody of that.
Yeah. No, very true. But I think all of that just helps make him feel a lot more sympathetic. So he doesn't just feel like a slasher villain. There's a Tromaville historian listed in the credits. Wait, and it's Ruth Kaufman.
I'm trying to get back to the credits because mine jumped the gun on me.
Yeah, mine did too, and I had to like quickly back out of that.
Dr. Snodberger.
That's a great name.
I think it's genuinely funny that Lloyd Kaufman wrote the story for this movie, and I'd be curious to know what that means, right? Like, is it a real short treatment? Is it a scene-by-scene breakdown? Like what exactly does that mean? And then he needed a screenwriter to write this screenplay? Like, Lloyd Kaufman couldn't have written this screenplay?
No.
Okay.
Actually, I just realized I wasn't even looking to see if Marissa Tomei's name popped up, and now it's too late. Oh well.
I doubt it.
I doubt it too, but it also they did like an extended.
To tell him that she was in this. Sorry, what was it?
No, I doubt it too, but then they went into like an extended actors credit where they were naming off like extras. So I was like, it could be, maybe.
I'm actually wrestling with that right now a little bit with the opening credits for my movie, where I'm trying to decide, like, what actors should actually be in the opening credits. Like, how many lines should you have to be listed there versus just at the end of the film? And won't I look more impressive if I have a longer list of actors at the end of the movie than if I put too many of them up front? Given that, like, it's not a giant cast, but it's maybe a few more actors than you would expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm dating this commentary.
Yeah, God, why don't you marry this commentary?
I read the comments to say that she's not credited. So you didn't miss anything. You didn't miss anything.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted, because it was like, oh, okay, now we're going into like extras. Like, maybe she's here. Because she's only in it for like 3 seconds, but at the same time, there is just a shot of just her. So she could have been.
To your point earlier about the title, Austin, I do think that one of the reasons that this movie sticks around and was even popular enough to get the sequels it got is because that is a legitimately memorable title. Like, I think it has to have this name. I think that's so important for this to become a cult classic and a franchise. Like, if it had been called, what was it? Something
Health Club Horror.
Like, maybe retroactively it would have gotten a better name or something, and then it could have continued. But like, if they kept that, I don't think anybody would remember this movie.
No, it's like Halloween, where like the original title for that was The Babysitter Murders. And, like, I also don't see that sticking around.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and like, I don't mean to give it the backhanded compliment of this is only popular because it actually has an iconic sounding title. Like, I like some things in this. But I do think that title really matters for its popularity.
Yeah, I mean, Halloween's one of my favorite movies, and like, I think it fits on that as well. Like, I agree completely. That's a big part of it.
Okay, Austin, let's go ahead and go to Patreon reviews.
Yes, I don't think we have any on Discord, so I think it's just going to be you reading.
Okay, I'll just read the Patreon ones. There's only that are directly on Patreon. There's only a couple of these. A quick plug for Patreon: if you would like to leave a short review, we used to call them tweet-length reviews. And there's not they don't call them tweets anymore, so I'm just calling them mini reviews now. It's a working title. Maybe I'll come up with something better.
X reviews.
2-3 sentences, and you can get your review read by me on camera at the end of these shows. Get your 2 cents in there by becoming a Patreon or a patron at just the $5 tier, patreon.com/geekvolution, and the $10 tier, of course, makes you a full-fledged producer where you get some extra perks on top of that. And we've just, like I said, got 2. Daniel Davis, he wrote more of a column. Austin, he didn't really stick to the rules, but I'll read it anyway. It's a good review. He says, decided to join the $5 Patreon. Thanks, man. You did it just today, just for this, just so I can post my thoughts. Here it goes. The Toxic Avenger is Troma doing a superhero movie the only way they could. If you've seen Romeo and Juliet, what is their other Shakespeare movie, Austin? Because somebody said they had 2, and I didn't realize that. I've heard of Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really want to see Troma and Juliet, though, because that's the one that Gunn gets a start on. But I don't know what the other one is.
It says, that, Class of Nukem High, and Sergeant Kabuki Man. I forgot that was them. You know exactly...
Sergeant Kabuki Man's also a Rewind movie.
Oh... I'm going to have to do 5 of these?
I think there's also an animated movie.
Anyway, let me read this, because it's long. You know exactly what you're going to get here. Conspicuous amounts of blood and gore, enough to make Lucio Fulci piss his pants. I don't know who that is.
Lucio Fulci is an Italian horror director.
Okay, 80s misogyny and every possible tasteless joke under the sun. I mean, maybe not all of them, but, quite a few. A lot of it's lightened, though, by the company's standard cheap effects. Once you realize that the awful teens are running over a watermelon, yeah, we talked about this, or that the dude who got his arm ripped off was a one-armed veteran, you can't unsee it. Still, but he didn't need to be. Still, for all of its disgusting imagery, I have to respect it for being a singular entity. Yeah, that's fair. There are a few flicks I can think of that go above and beyond the line of duty in their attempts to alienate all 5 senses. That's a wonderful line. A begrudging hero. Also, this is the worst kind of film to watch when your mother is in the room, which I made the mistake of doing when I rented it from Netflix in the mid-2000s.
It could be worse. The first time I watched this, my grandma was going to bed, and I was putting this on, and I had just put on Tubi, and onto our TV, and it was like, how old are you? So I'm putting in my age, and she walks in as I'm doing that, and I'm like, okay, already, that's kind of weird. She walks in, and it's like I'm entering my age on the TV, and then she leaves, and then comes back, and right when there's just nothing but sex noises, and I'm just like, oh god, okay, this is happening now.
You didn't just pause it?
No, I did, but it made it weirder. Cause
because now it looks like she walked in when you were watching porn or something.
Yeah, and I also had to input my age to watch it.
Also, if she walked in and saw any part of that scene, it would be hard to convince her it wasn't porn.
Exactly, and that's the worst part. Yeah,
Victor,
no, it's the Toxic Avenger.
Which also sounds like it could be the name of a porn film. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
True. Especially when you get into the sequels, because there's so many porn movies that have part whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Victor, finally, Geekvolution enters the world of exploitation cinema. Isn't that exciting? Everyone's been waiting for this day to arrive. It's crazy that a movie made this long ago on such a small budget still manages to completely shock and appall. Not if you're Austin. He is immune to the appallingness of this movie. He's got appall armor.
No, I give it points for every appalling joke.
But how do you give them point? You can't run them over. It's
like a metaphorical. You ran through the joke.
Oh, I've got to hurry up and turn this timer off because it's going to look like this movie is an hour and a half long, and it's not even that long.
Well, we don't want people to think that this movie's an hour and a half.
No, it's exactly as long as I can stand it to be, I think. Anyway. Like the best exploitation films, this thrives on being something that mainstream cinema could absolutely never make, and he gives it a superhero. Anthony Cabrera just put in a 4.99 super chat. Kaufman's last film, a Tempest adaptation named Shakespeare Shitstorm. Oh, I forgot about that. No, I've heard of that.
That's great. I've not heard of that one.
That's a wonderful title.
That is a wonderful title.
It's really funny, and I had to read it because he put an asterisk in there, but there's no way for me to say the asterisk.
Well, you can just say. I thought you were gonna be like. He said it without a super chat earlier, and I was gonna read it, and I was just gonna read it as Shakespeare Storm, but that's okay. It doesn't sound as stupid if you just read it.
Yeah, well, I'm being a little bit looser, like I said this evening. I thought about doing the Deadpool thing and just, like turning off the rule.
You could have been like Shakespeare Storm.
I forgot to mention that the hilarity of he sounds like that, but he's got that real like theatrical stage voice, and sometimes he does it simultaneously. Am I wrong? Where isn't he sometimes talking and you hear him growling at the same time?
Yeah, I feel like that happens a few times. That's beautiful.
That's my favorite thing in this movie, and that's really funny.
Besides the Braille mirror.
Yeah, and the little woman that is somehow in charge of a human trafficking ring. Austin, let's go ahead and get your rating for this one, and then we'll see how on polar opposite ends our Letterboxd reads for this. But go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this movie is a easy superhero for me. I think it is probably one of the best superhero parody films of all time. And just overall, like, just one of my favorite B movies of all time. Like, this is a movie that, even though I only just saw last year, like, I think I've already seen this like a good 4 times already. Like, this is a movie I've already started to go back to pretty often. I don't know. It's a good time all around.
We're just different people. There's a lot
that into you.
I'm finding the more we're talking about it that I'm appreciating like this on paper a lot more than actually experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm actually really curious to see the pilot of that cartoon show, because I'd love to, and I know this gets away from the whole point, but I'd love to see this reworked as not a raunchy shock fest, because I think there's a really good comic book here, and it can still be in that parody vein, but a little bit more toward a Tick or something.
Mm-hmm.
So just for me and the experience watching it, this is a villain for me. I don't like this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm again, I've got more respect for it than I ever did before. I still can't even go all the way to hero with it. I just don't want to watch it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fair.
I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I don't get a lot of the visual slapstick humor and stuff. It's like I said earlier, it's that subjective comedy thing where either you get it and you think it's funny, or you don't. And a lot of the stuff that I'm latching on to now, I was just totally blinded to initially, where I had a hard time even seeing it, and now all the actual superhero parody stuff, I wish was brought more to the fore. I wish we could get to his actually running around and saving people and taking out bad guys quicker.
Yeah,
I wish the crux of the narrative was... Sorry, I wish the crux of the narrative was, is he just a monster, or is he actually selective about it? And it's preposterous that comes up 13 minutes before the movie is over.
Yeah, I wonder if you'll maybe 2 and 3 a little bit more, where they dial back some of that offensive stuff and go more superhero-y. And then 4 dials up the superhero stuff, but then brings back a lot of the raunchy, offensive stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the problem is also, since I saw this in high school, I've now fallen in love with RoboCop and The Crow, which make me want this to be more in that vein.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair.
You know, where it's still got that very violent and anti-establishment bent to it. But it doesn't feel like the main point is just to make me go, hey, you're not supposed to do that! Anthony Cabrera reminds me that there was a 12-issue Marvel comic for this, which I think Marvel made it.
I was gonna say earlier I thought there was a comic, but I couldn't remember if it was Marvel or someone else.
I forgot all about that. I'm almost positive Marvel made that.
That is probably so long out of print, but I would love it if they brought that back.
I have sold that a few times, but I never read it.
You're probably like, oh, get rid of this. Play hot potato with that one.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring up Letterboxd, and I'll show you where I ranked it.
Yeah, I just realized I'd forgotten to do that. So when you were saying your rating, I was like, uh-oh. I gotta put that on there.
You looked preoccupied by something.
Yeah, I was like, uh-oh, wait a minute.
Oh, that's all right. Okay, so I have it listed... Where did I put it? Oh, there it is. I've got it right now at number 30 out of 39. I've got it right under Moonwalker right now, which I feel a little weird about. Maybe this should be even a little bit over Moonwalker. I don't know.
I mean, Moonwalker is a beautiful film.
Yeah, but I keep inching it further and further down, personally.
That's heartbreaking, but oh well.
And then I also don't know how I feel about having Joker over this, because I'm turning more and more against that movie as we've talked about it.
I was going to say, your list obviously subjective, that's fine, but Joker being above Toxic Avenger and Moonwalker does hurt my feelings a little bit.
Well, I don't feel great about it. I feel inconsistent, where I know... I know partly just to be a jerk, I have to put Toxic Avenger over Fantastic Four. Like, I have to.
Oh, 100% you have to.
But then, like, I've got the Phantom over Toxic Avenger, and I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. And, like, neither of us really cared for that after we watched that the last time.
No, but you also like that more than I do, so, like, I can see that.
Yeah, but I still had the absolute worst watch of that. Okay, let's see where Austin put it. I'm going to refresh this page here because it wasn't there before. Hold on. I've got ad blocking issues. Stop it. Yes, I'm going to continue without supporting you. Oh, wow. He's got Toxic Avenger listed 7. Speaking of hurting people's feelings, you've got an over X2. I don't think I can work with you anymore.
But it's just correct.
No, it's not. At least you still have Captain Invincible above it. Thank God. You're at least not a crazy person there. But, like, he's got Toxic Avenger over Blade and First Avenger?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see no issue with this.
Well, you know, legitimately crazy people don't know they're crazy.
I mean, X2 I can at least understand. I don't know. I do genuinely think this is a better film than First Avenger, but X2, like,
I don't get that. That's nuts. That's crazy town banana pants. Okay, I don't get that.
But if you say to me, Austin, do you want to watch Toxic Avenger or do you want to watch X2? I'm probably gonna say Toxic Avenger. So it's like I feel like I have to give it to that.
Well, I may have to rethink your contract. You guys may or may not see Austin on the next show, which is funny because he picked what ended up getting voted for the next movie. Austin, would you...
Oh, I actually didn't know which one won. Okay.
It's the one that was in the lead almost the whole time.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I wasn't able to check, so I wasn't sure. I knew it was tied. Was the last thing I'd heard.
Do you know what it is? Because I was going to have you announce it.
I do, because I imagine it's not the other one that I picked.
Yeah. So, Austin, why don't you go on and announce? So, what we did this time is this is the first time this year that we've let the producers pick, and we did a poll where the only common theme, I think, is movies neither of us have seen, right?
Yes. So I've been in like a real specific mood recently. So like I picked one thing off of that, and then I picked another movie that I was like, oh, this looks weird. Like this looks like a weird B movie thing. I actually had a really hard time picking a movie for our ranking because I was like, Cap just had to watch Toxic Avenger. I don't want to put like my mind was going like I'm scrolling through the list and my eyes are going like, ooh, Sergeant Kabuki Man. No, I can't do another Troma movie. Like not after Cap just watched Toxic Avenger. Like, oh, what about this? No, we can't do that right after.
Well, we've also got so much mainstream stuff we haven't hit at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, we need to get some of the weirder stuff out of the way, so that's not all we're doing after we get the big two. But like, we've done almost no MCU so far. Like, we're like 37 in, and we've done like 2.
Yeah, and very weird ones: Captain America: First Avenger and Doctor Strange 2.
And I felt like I couldn't pick anything mainstream really because it would just immediately win.
Mm-hmm.
Because you picked such weird stuff that people wouldn't know. So I felt like I had to go a little bit odder. So the 2 I picked were Green Lantern First Flight, which is an animated movie that I've never seen, and The Meteor Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the weird one I picked was Elfman, starring Wee Man from Jackass and Jeffrey Combs. Explain that duo.
Which I had never heard of.
No, neither had I. I was just like, oh, here's a movie on the list. This looks weird.
I feel like going through Jeffrey Combs' filmography would be the trippiest experience.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I almost picked Dr. Mordred. I could have done a Jeffrey Combs double feature, but I didn't.
That's true.
But anyways, the film that did win is Scooby-Doo Mask of the Blue Falcon, which is a movie I've been meaning to watch for a long time, but...
Yeah, so that is a superhero movie. It's Scooby-Doo teaming up with some obscure made-up... I'm assuming that's just made up for that. It's not actually a crossover.
No, it's a Hanna-Barbera thing. We actually have 2 Scooby-Doo movies on the list because of that, because that Scoob movie from 2020 is also a Blue Falcon crossover.
Well, no, there's more than that, because there's also the Brave and the Bold crossover movie.
No, I know. I mean... Like, specifically, there are 2 because of Blue Falcon. Is all I mean.
Oh, because of Blue Falcon? Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
But the big thing I know about that movie is that he's voiced by, is it Dietrich Bader, I think, that does Brave and the Bold Batman? But
really?
But he's doing, like, a Dark Knight Returns thing with it. Yeah, I've seen some clips from it, and I'm like, oh, I really want to watch this. It looks cool.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was a Hanna-Barbera character.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's in like a Space Ghost kind of vein.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Okay. So we're doing that next time. I knew that existed.
I actually think that could have had a chance if you picked more like mainstream stuff. Especially because like I know on the Discord people were kind of excited about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I don't know, people like Scooby-Doo, I don't know.
Yeah, and like I saw that and immediately I was like... My thought, not to give you crap, Austin, my thought was, well, we will have just done Toxic Avenger. Could you pick something that's not going to also have 5 viewers next week? Like, draw me a crowd here, dude.
That'll be the most viewed video on the channel. Watch.
It's going to be Danny Phantom all over again. We'll be like, why is anybody watching this? All right.
There's a huge Blue Falcon fan base.
We may come up with... I was going to say we might come up with like another little animated movie and do a double feature next week, or we might just do another discussion thing right after, because that'll be real short.
I mean, we could finish the list, because I doubt we'll be able to finish the list tonight, but...
yeah, I'm with you. Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and finish off here. Thanks a ton for watching. I really appreciate everybody hanging out with us this evening. Thanks for watching after the fact. I appreciate all of the support in the Super Chats tonight, and especially want to thank our Patreon producers, which I always do by name at the end of the show. So thanks to all of our producers at the $10, or our patrons, the $10 tier and above, including Darren Dooley, Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Elliot Slater, Goofster123, Joe Turner, Joe Jira, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse, Victor, Abix Stark, Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisipig, Kareem Roberts, Kate Blaze, Matt Bat 68, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, and Wendell Jones. And we will see you again next week for a superhero movie I've never seen, which is rare.
Before we finish, though, John Kelling says that he got here late and he was wondering if we could start Rewind over so we could watch it from the start. So can we start this over?
No, that's what the playback feature is for. In fact, this entire time you've been able to go back to the start of this while we've been broadcasting. It's the marvels of YouTube technology.
A crappy sequel.
So, in other words, no, because this means I never have to watch this movie again if I don't want to. Okay, so no, I'm not doing that. I'm already gonna have to watch the sequels and the remake. It's gonna be way too much Toxic Avenger for me this year, dude. Like,
which is a spin-off technically, because Sergeant Kabuki Man is in 4.
Oh,
so we would have to do that before 4, but probably not really.
Not really. I mean, we jump around anyway. I mean, we won't jump around with the sequels because I don't do that with things I've never seen. You know, it's not like I reviewed RoboCop 3 before 2 or anything. But
yeah, exactly.
Okay, we'll see you later. Thanks for watching, everybody. Austin and I will be back in a few minutes. If you want to keep hanging out with us to do more of our top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time. And in the meantime, see you later, folks. Appreciate you. Goodbye.